Solar panels on cars are the biggest scam since water seal. Those things belong on roofs and other raised structures, but not on vehicles. Then why do you want to do exactly that? Mounting solar panels on your camper? The explanation will follow later in this video. My name is Micha and I want to build a solar-driven camper van out of this old T4 Volkswagen bus. Note to myself, do not make a split screen take with a white and a black t-shirt on. Now, the idea of sticking solar panels on a car and driving around for free isn't super innovative. This idea has been around for as long as solar cells have existed. In 1954, the first mass-market solar cells with an incredible 4% efficiency were presented to the public by Bell Laboratories in New Jersey. And just 1 year later, solar cells that had been further developed to an efficiency of 11% were used commercially for mains independent of operation of telephone amplifiers. On August 31st of the same year, General Motors employee William G. Cobb built the world's first solar car. Well, it was just a model car with about 40 centimeters of length that had 12 selenium solar cells mounted on it, which powered a tiny motor, but it worked. The little vehicle moved forward. In 1962, the first solar vehicle that could transport people was presented to an audience. The International Rectifier Company installed solar panels on a vintage 1912 Baker electric car. Basically, just a large flat solar panel was screwed on top of the car. This vehicle was the father of today's solar car ideas. It had all the components you can find today. An electric motor with batteries that are at least partially charged by solar cells. But there have also been attempts with exclusively solar-powered vehicles. In 1977, an Alabama University professor named Edward Pessineri built a full-fledged solar vehicle that ran just on solar panels, with no batteries. This vehicle was named the Bluebird, and it was presented at the 1982 World's Fair in Knoxville, which had the motto, "Energy turns the world." Besides that, other technical innovations were presented, such as the touchscreen display, the gas pump with integrated payment function, the radio telephone, the car telephone, and Cherry Coke? Many of you will now be wondering, if solar cars have been around for so long, why have they never been built and sold for the mainstream market? And conspiracy theorists would rant, the plants disappeared into the walls of some big oil companies and the inventors were silenced or killed. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, 111 exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Gee, that is hard for a German to say. But of course that is not the case. The explanation for this is once again quite unspectacularly provided by physics. Of course, the development of solar vehicles continued after 1982. As early as 1985, the Tour del Sol, the world's first solar vehicle race, was organized in Switzerland. It led from Romanshorn by a winter tour and Bern to Geneva. And all of this on open roads, which meant the drivers had to obey the given traffic laws. The solar cells and batteries were allowed to have a maximum output of 480 watts peak and a capacity of watts peak times 10. There were two classes, one for vehicle driven solely on solar power with a battery and one with additional muscle power. In that case, the solar cells and batteries had to have a little less power or capacity. Of the 73 vehicles that started in the competition, 58 reached the finish line. The vehicle from Mercedes-Benz Alfa Real won the first race back then. In the decades that followed, there were and still are races for solar vehicles all over the world. This helps to make the vehicles better, but did you notice anything when you look at these quote-unquote cars? Correct, they don't really look like everyday cars. These are sophisticated racing machines that have to be able to cope with the little bit of energy from the sun as good as possible and with as little losses of efficiency as possible. Therein lies the reason why there are no commercial solar cars and there never will be any. The oil bosses really don't have any hand in this, at least this time. Let's take a look at the physics behind this in a little more detail. Don't worry, this isn't getting too nerdy. Everything stands and falls with the energy that the sun sends to Earth. According to the first law of thermodynamics, energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It is merely transferred into other states. The energy of the sun varies depending on the season and the angle of the Earth's surface. Roughly speaking, we can say that less energy reaches us in the northern hemisphere because the sun's rays have to pass through more of the atmosphere than at the equator. And the same applies to the southern hemisphere. For Germany, a simplified value of 1000 watts per square meter is assumed. Also here in the north a little less, in the south a little more. So these 1000 watts are the absolute limit. You can't do more without violating physics. Unfortunately, there are still such bad things as losses of efficiency. Every technical device has some losses, and they make up to 80% with the solar cells. 80% losses means 20% efficiency. This leaves only around 200 watts per square meter of the beautiful solar energy. Yes, I know there are also solar cells that achieve more efficiency, even up to 46%, but so far this has only been achieved under laboratory conditions. For commercial cells you can calculate between 16 and 25%. So we now have to store the remaining 200 watts in the battery. The electronics of the charge controller have losses, and the batteries also heat up during charging. In general, a loss of about 5% is expected, so 190 watts remain. If we take this energy from the batteries again for driving, there are once again losses, because the inverter and the motor heat up. But here, throughout constant further development, up to 98% efficiency has already been achieved. We don't calculate with the maximum here, but again with about 5% losses. Makes all in all around 180 watts, which can be converted into propulsion from the solar radiation that hits us. And that number is now the physical maximum we can use. Well, the worst of the theory part is already over. A modern electric car today consumes an average of about 19 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Some small cars 15 kilowatt hours, larger sedans around 22 kilowatt hours. The Volkswagen ID Bus up to 24 kilowatt hours. In order to be able to compare the two numbers now, we need to convert the watts from the solar cells into kilowatt hours. For that, we need time. Namely the time in which the solar cells actually generate energy.
Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong. You're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong.
Yeah, okay, the time that the solar cells convert the energy and we can store it in the batteries. Satisfied? For this, we take the summertime, because we want to see what is the best that we can expect. The average duration of sunshine in the summer in Germany is around 7.8 hours a day. Times 180 watts results in 1404 watt hours or 1.4 kilowatt hours per day per square meter. This means that our electric car with a consumption of 19 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers can cover a meager 7.37 kilometers with the power of 1 square meter of solar surface. But wait a minute, Michi, I hear you say. That is not 1 square meter of solar surface on the solar cars. True, the Scion from Sono Motors should have 7.4 square meters of solar cells, the Aptera might come onto the market with 3 square meters, and the Lightyear 1 should have around 5 square meters of solar surface. Our average 19 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers consumption in car would theoretically cover 54, 22 and 37 kilometers with that solar surface. A small outlier is the Aptera, where the manufacturer states a consumption of an incredibly low 6.2 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. In my opinion, this number belongs in the world of legends and myths, because a manufacturer wants one thing first of all: sell his products. With this minimal consumption, the car would cover an incredible 68 kilometers per day with the energy of the sun alone, theoretically. I emphasize the word theoretical on purpose, because none of these vehicles are available on the open market, so everyone has to rely on what the manufacturers say. And of course, they are calculating very, very nicely. For example, the Scion. The company stated that the car has 7.4 square meters of solar surface. But if we look at where these cells would have been attached, we see that they are partially mounted perpendicular on the sides and also the back of the trunk lid. And with that, they are practically worthless, since these would only convert the indirect light into electricity, which is basically a fraction more than nothing. Only the solar cells that are on the roof, the hood, and the trunk count, as long as the latter is reasonably flat. This effectively leaves a maximum of 3.5 square meters of solar surface on the Scion. And it also halves the theoretical chargeable driving distance from 54 to about 25 kilometers. The Scion case brings us seamlessly to the next problem. That is the maximum performance that we have expected so far. It only occurs when our panels are aligned with the surface exactly to the sun, which will never be the case with a car. And that also means losses that manufacturers like to keep quiet about. The losses due to a non-ideal adjustment of the cells can be very significant. Every owner of a solar system knows the performance curve on the inverter display when the maximum is only obtained at a certain time of the day, because the cells on the roof of the house do not rotate with the sun, and they are illuminated from the side only in the morning and in the evening. And I don't think that the average car driver parks his car so that the angle to the sun is always ideal. And then there are the shadows on top of all that. The performances specified by the manufacturers assume that the car will be sitting in the blazing sun all day. No normal person would do that, and if they do, the air conditioning to cool down the car afterwards will probably eat up half of the day's harvest. Here in Central Europe, you first have to find a parking lot that is exposed to the sun all day long. On one hand, trees have been planted here for decades to shade the parking lots. On the other hand, there are lanterns, power poles and other things everywhere that cast a shadow. And unfortunately, those shadows move throughout the day. So there are a lot of things to consider to get the best results from solar panels on a car. Because yes, even the smallest shadows from power cables can destroy the yield of the solar cells. There's a video here on YouTube from the DIY-Blog channel in which Dave investigates a mysterious drop in the performance of his solar system.
Why am I getting data that has all these wiggle years in here?
The reason turns out to be a relatively thin tether, of which the shadow moves over the solar cells over the course of the day.
You can see the sharp shadow across there. It's still fairly diffuse.
Finally, there are also such trivial things as a dirty car, which can happen quite often, the falling leaves of a tree in the fall which may land on the solar cells, or even the comedian work colleague who makes a fun of it to every now and then stick a post-it somewhere on the solar surface. I think I've pretty much listed everything why I think the solar car hype is a scam. At the end of a normal day, as a proud owner of such a car, you should be more likely to be able to drive a solar charge distance in the single digits. It remains questionable whether the additional price and the raw materials and energy used to produce the solar panels are still worth it. In my opinion, neither in an economic nor in an ecological sense. To take up the sentence from the intro again, solar cells belong on elevated locations and tilted towards the sun in order to have the maximum yield. A power line to the parking areas is easier, cheaper and more effectively realized than slapping solar cells on a car. And for slow charging, a 220 volt socket is sufficient. At 3 kWh you still have enough charging power to complete 99% of all standard journeys with an electric car. Feel free to write in the comments below what you think of the idea of building solar cells on a car. Maybe you even pre-ordered a Scion or an Aptera. Now, why do I want to put solar cells on a camper bus then? There are several reasons for this. My plan is not to mount these cells flat on the roof. The bus has a folding roof, so I can align the cells with the sun if I park the bus accordingly. And I would also like to mount an entire solar array on the roof. Of course foldable, to increase the solar surface area even further. Of course this will only be worthwhile if I stand somewhere for several days. Even with a solar array that can be folded out and tilted, the daily yield will be limited. In addition, I not only want to charge the driving battery with it, but also use it to power all the other electric devices that are needed for van life, be it laptops, the refrigerator, the stove and so on. All of this requires more electricity than a small flat-mounted solar system could ever provide. But I would like to delve deeper into that in the next episode. I hope you tune in again. I call it a day for now and thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Or if you didn't like the video, please give it a thumbs down. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, you should do so now. It doesn't cost anything, but helps the channel. And you should also activate the bell so you don't miss any more videos. I would definitely like to thank everyone who supports my little channel in various ways. Below in the video description you will find all the ways you can support the channel. Of course, my thanks also go out to everyone who watches my videos. A thumbs up from me to you. My name is Micha, and I'm out.